Hello and welcome to Business Law. This is Mrs. Bratcher, and in this section we're going to be learning about the civil trial procedure. In the criminal trial procedure, it started with the crime and an arrest. In the civil trial procedure, the first thing that you need to do once someone has violated your individual rights is to file the complaint. Once the complaint's been filed, then the person you're complaining against is going to be served with a summons, and then they're going to need to file an answer. So they're going to write up some paperwork explaining their side of the story, essentially. We're going to have a discovery process next, which is depositions, where we'll sit down and question people, and interrogatories, where we'll ask those written questions. All right, I would like for you now to stop and write an example of an interrogatory for a case. An interrogatory is a written question, and that's something that you can go online and search to get ideas. And you can also see I've given you an example of an interrogatory right here. You might ask, please identify all persons who arrived at the scene of the auto accident within 1 hour after the auto accident. All right, now let's look at a case. After their cars collided at a four-way stop intersection, Claxon filed a suit against DeLucia, the other driver. In his complaint initiating the case, Claxon claimed that DeLucia caused the accident by failing to stop for his stop sign. DeLucia was served with a copy of the complaint and a summons. A month passed and DeLucia did not file an answer to the complaint. What do you think the court would do if the defendant failed to file an answer in a timely manner? Well, if she didn't want to give her side of the story, then the judge will just make a judgment without hearing that side of the story. All right, now here's the trial procedure. A lot of it is similar to what you learned about in the criminal trial procedure, in that we're going to have a jury selection. We'll still have opening statements. We're going to present evidence in the form of questioning. We'll have closing arguments at the end. The jury instructions will be read. They will determine a verdict. The jury decides beyond a preponderance of the evidence, and then a judgment will be made. That's the final result, usually some kind of sum of money. How many juries do you think are selected for a civil lawsuit? And what are some of the possible remedies in a civil lawsuit? Answers: potentially 6 to 12 jurors. We can pay damages, which is money. We can have an injunction, which tells the judge to stop doing something. Or we can order specific performance, which would be when the judge ordered someone to fulfill a promise. So if you had a contract with a catering business and they didn't want to cater your event, a judge could order them to fulfill that promise and actually cater the event. Here's another example. Horsley, the owner of a dry cleaning store, lived next door to Erdley, who ran a competing dry cleaning store in the same town. The two quarreled frequently and became enemies. One summer night, Erdley composed, printed, and secretly posted around town a flyer accusing Horsley of dealing drugs out of his store. The accusation was untrue and defamatory. Several witnesses saw Erdley posting the flyers. What kind of damages could Horsley collect in this lawsuit? And your options are punitive, compensatory, or both. Punitive damage would be one where you are punishing the wrongdoer. Compensatory damages, you're trying to compensate them, or perhaps a little bit of both. And punitive can only be awarded in intentional tort cases, not unintentional. Grimshaw sued the manufacturer of his auto after being burned severely in a collision. He was able to show that the manufacturer willfully manufactured and used without a corrective recall a defective gas tank in the model of car and knew it was a problem. The jury awarded him $7 million in actual damages and another $100 million in punitive. The punitive damages were awarded was set so high because a smaller amount would not be enough to punish the automaker, which makes billions every year. Stevens won a judgment for $35,000 in a civil lawsuit against Alvarez. Alvarez objected but did not appeal because her lawyer told her that there was no basis for her appeal. Alvarez stubbornly refused to pay. What steps could Stevens take to collect the judgment? What a judge could do is order a writ of execution. So he can start seizing cars or their savings account until they pay up. And that is the civil trial procedure in a nutshell. Most of it is similar to what you all already learned in criminal trial procedures. However, instead of saying guilty or not guilty, we would say here liable or not liable. Instead of starting with a crime and an arrest, we're going to start by filing a complaint. We're not going to have police involved. Nobody's going to be punished to go to jail. They might be punished by punitive damages, which is for intentional tort cases only.